My mother told me once that grief has a smell. She was wrong. What came into our house after my father died didn't smell like anything at all, and that's exactly how I knew it wasn't him. I need to tell you about my mother, not because it's easy, it isn't, but because I think someone, somewhere, is about to do what she did, and I need them to read this first. My mother was 55 years old when my father died. They had been married for over 30 years, and if you'd ever seen the two of them together, you'd understand what I mean when I say it wasn't an ordinary marriage. It was the kind of love people write about and rarely live. He used to bring her tea before she even asked for it. She used to save the last piece of fruit for him without saying a word. When he died, heart attack, sudden, no warning, it didn't just take her husband, it took the floor out from under her. For weeks, she barely spoke. I moved back into the house to be with her, telling myself it was temporary, just until she was back to normal. But grief doesn't work like a light switch. Some nights I'd walk past her door and hear her talking, soft, low, like she was having a conversation. I told myself she was just remembering him out loud. People do that. I didn't think much of it. Until the night I found the book. It wasn't a real book, not in the way you're picturing. It was a PDF she'd found on some forum, shared and reshared so many times nobody could tell you where it originally came from. The kind of thing that lives in the corners of the internet, in groups for people who can't let go. It promised something simple, something every grieving person on earth has wished for at least once, a way to meet those who have already left this world. I found it open on her laptop one night when I went to check on her. A few pages of instructions, some kind of ritual, words to repeat, a time to do it, a state of mind to be in before you slept. I didn't take it seriously. I want to be honest with you about that. I saw it, I sighed, I closed the laptop, and I told her gently the next morning that she should be careful what she reads online when she's in pain. She just nodded. She didn't tell me she had already done it. For a while, nothing happened, or at least nothing I noticed. She slept a little easier, ate a little more. I thought maybe time really was healing her. Then she started saying she didn't feel alone anymore. She said it so casually the first time I almost missed it. We were having breakfast, and she said, "I don't feel like I'm by myself in that room anymore." I asked what she meant. She just smiled, a strange, far-off smile I hadn't seen on her since before my father died, and said, "I don't know, it's just nice. It feels like someone's there." I told myself it was comforting in a way. Grief makes people feel things that aren't there. A presence, a familiar smell, the sense that someone is standing behind you. Psychologists have a name for it. They call it a sense of presence, and it's actually common after losing a spouse. So I let it go. But it didn't stay that simple. Over the next few weeks, my mother changed in ways I can only describe as wrong. Not dramatic, not all at once, small things first. She started waking up at strange hours, always around 3 in the morning, sitting up in bed like she'd heard something. She stopped wanting the lights off completely. She needed at least one lamp on, always facing her bed, like she wanted to be able to see if something moved. And then there was the sweets. My mother had never had much of a sweet tooth. A piece of dessert after dinner, maybe, like anyone else. But suddenly, on certain nights, without fail, she would eat sweets like I had never seen a person eat. Not just a craving, an almost ritual hunger. Plate after plate. She'd sit at the kitchen table at 11 at night, eating sweets like her body was starving for something specific, something only that could satisfy. I tried to joke about it once. She didn't laugh. She just kept eating. Eyes somewhere far away, like she wasn't fully in the room with me. She was also losing weight, fast, faster than grief alone should account for. I started watching her plate at dinner, and she was eating, not a lot, but eating, and still, week by week, she looked thinner, paler. There were dark rings under her eyes that no amount of sleep seemed to fix, because by then I don't think she was really sleeping at all. She was just lying there, waiting. One night I heard her voice through the wall, not talking, laughing. Low, intimate laughter, the kind you save for someone you love, someone close to you in the dark. I stood outside her door for almost a full minute before I worked up the nerve to knock. When I opened the door, she was alone, sitting up in bed, smiling at nothing, her hand resting on the empty space beside her, like she'd just been holding someone's hand a second before. "Who were you talking to, Mom?" I asked her. She looked at me like I had interrupted something private. "No one, sweetheart. Go to sleep." I didn't sleep that night. It was around this time she told me, for the first time, that she could feel something beside her in bed, not just in the room, in the bed. She wouldn't look at me when she said it. She just stared at her hands and said it felt like her husband was there, that it felt like the way it used to feel, lying next to him at night. I asked her if she ever saw anything. She said no, never anything she could really call a shape, just a thickness in the dark, a place where the air felt heavier than the rest of the room. Sometimes, she said, right at the edge of her vision, like something was always standing just slightly behind wherever she was looking, she'd catch the impression of a shadow that didn't move the way shadows are supposed to. I want to be honest with you. At this point, I still didn't fully believe what I was starting to fear. I told myself this was depression, maybe even something like psychosis brought on by trauma and isolation. I made an appointment with a doctor for her. She went because she still listened to me back then, and the doctor ran blood tests, asked about her sleep, her appetite, her mood. Nothing came back that explained what was happening to her body. Whatever this was, it wasn't sitting cleanly in any file a doctor could open. She kept getting weaker, and the strangest part, she didn't seem afraid of it. Not at first. She seemed almost grateful, like grief had handed her a terrible kind of gift, and she wasn't ready to let go of it, even as it was clearly taking something out of her in return. It was a conversation on a Sunday afternoon that finally broke something open in me. We were sitting in the living room, and out of nowhere, with no build-up at all, she said, "I think he's come to take me with him." I asked her what she meant. "It feels like he's calling me, like he's not just visiting anymore, like one day soon he's going to come and not leave again, and I'll go with him." I think that was the moment I stopped trying to explain any of this away. But if you think this is where things got bad, I haven't told you about the first visit yet. The man my family sent, the one who deals with things doctors can't explain. And what my mother said to him is the part that still keeps me up at night. I reached out to a man my family knew, someone experienced with these kinds of cases, recommended by a friend of a friend who dealt with something similar years before. I sat with him alone first and told him everything, the ritual, the presence, the sweets, the weight loss, the bed, the laughter through the wall. He listened without interrupting, the way people do when they've heard versions of this story before and know better than to look surprised. Then he asked to speak with my mother. He was gentle with her. He asked simple questions at first, how she was sleeping, how she was feeling, whether she'd noticed anything unusual. And then he asked her directly, did this shadow ever hurt her? Did it ever frighten her, threaten her, force itself on her in any way she didn't want? She went quiet for a long time. I watched her hands twist together in her lap, and when she finally spoke, she wouldn't meet his eyes. "It makes me feel like I'm his wife," she said, "like he's come to take me home." That was all she would say. No matter how he asked it differently, no matter how carefully he tried to open the door for her to say more, that one sentence was the only thing she'd give him. I don't know, to this day, exactly what happened to her in that bed at night. I don't think I want to know the rest. I only know that whatever it was, it had convinced her completely that it was her husband come back for her, and some private part of her, the part still raw with 30 years of love, didn't want to fight it. He began treatment that same week. I won't walk you through every detail of it. Some of it isn't mine to share, and some of it I genuinely don't have the words for. I can tell you it was intense,
Prayers late into the night, specific instructions for the house, for her room, for what she was and wasn't allowed to do alone after dark. For a while, I let myself believe it was working, but it's still there. Months later, as I'm telling you this, my mother still wakes up at 3 in the morning some nights. She still eats sweets on certain nights, like clockwork, like an appointment she can't bring herself to break. She still talks sometimes to the empty space beside her bed, and the things she says now frighten me more than anything that came before, because lately she talks like someone who isn't entirely sure she still belongs to this world. Small things, soon, she'll say, to no one, or she'll look at her own hands like she's trying to remember if they're really hers. I don't know how this ends. I wish I could tell you we found the answer, closed the book, sealed whatever door my mother opened that night she read something on a screen that promised her one more conversation with the man she loved. I wish I could tell you she's back to herself. What I can tell you is this. If you ever find something online that promises to bring back someone you've lost, a ritual, a chant, a set of instructions written by someone who'll never have to live with what it costs you, please, for the love of whoever you've lost, close it. Grief is already a kind of haunting. You don't need to invite anything else in to keep you company in it. If my mother is still listening, in whatever way she still can, I'm not done fighting for her. I never will be. If this story affected you the way it affected me telling it, hit that like button before you go. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this warning. And if you want to be here for whatever happens next with my mother, subscribe, because I don't think this story is over yet.